Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hardy, and I've been a professor of philosophy for a number of years at several universities. I also have a background in social sciences, specifically in psychology and in education. I'm going to be talking about human nature and natures generally. There are three approaches that we can take to a theory of something's nature. The simplest is a descriptive theory, and we focus here on the question, what is the thing? So what are humans? This is going to come up with a list or a set of features that the thing has, something that if you have these features, you're a human. If you don't have them, then you're not a human, something like that. The second kind of theory we have is an explanatory theory. And here the question is not what something is, but why is it what it is? And so we want to know not just what are the things, what is a human like, but why is a human like that? Why are humans the way they are? The third kind is a normative theory. And a normative theory seeks to address the question of how humans should be, or how anything should be. So for example, we might say that a theory of a bookcase, a bookshelf's nature is to hold books. And so a good bookshelf is able to hold a lot of books. A poor bookshelf would be weak and flimsy and couldn't hold any books. So normative theories ultimately seek to go from what a thing is to how should it be. Personally, I think descriptive theories are the way to go. So let me say a couple of words about why I don't think that normative theories or explanatory theories are likely to work. Normative theories, well, they've been used for repression a lot throughout history. There's a long list of horrors. Eugenics and slavery are just one of them. Beyond that, I think there's a difficulty in connecting the what of something, the description of it, to how it should be. No matter what story you tell about human nature, I don't think that really tells us how humans should be or what makes one human better than another. And I think there's danger going down that. And there's a lot of theory here about the relation between facts and norms that go far afield here. But I just don't see that as a very promising way to go. So next we have the explanatory theories. Now explanations can be very helpful. The problem here is that explanations go all the way down. And what I mean by that is that whenever you have an explanation, there's a thing to be explained and a thing that explains it. And you can always take this thing that does the explaining and move it over here and ask why. Any 4-year-old can tell you this. You can always ask why again. And that means there's no natural place to stop this chain of explanation. As we explain the features of humanity by other features of humanity, where does it stop? It's difficult to know. So again, the explanations are important, but it seems to me that what's really doing the work here are the features, and the explanations are different. Further explanations of where we choose to stop them are a little bit culturally determined. They're limited by our current state of knowledge. So we might, for example, go to DNA right now to say, well, humans are the way they are because this is what their DNA is like. But that's a relatively recent occurrence. We might, go even deeper than that. We might find out, well, it's not really the DNA, but it's, some other feature that explains why we have the DNA that we have, and so on and so forth. And there's no really good place to stop that. But we're always gaining more features. So I think leaving the explanations out of a theory of human nature is the way to go, and sticking just with the description. I think that we can get a description. And the simple reason for that is that we're able to distinguish humans from non-humans. Nobody gets confused about whether a tree is human or things like that. There are some close cases. There are things like orangutans that, were called old men of the forest, and we could begin to say, well, they're sort of like humans or sort of not like humans. Do we include them? And this leads us to the point that the first thing we have to do in the first task in getting a theory of human nature is to decide just where that line is. We're pretty good at making it most of the time, but we have to make it. And since we ourselves are in it, this is an introduction, a possible place to introduce some bias. So I've already mentioned that sort of our close primate relatives may be a case, but we're pretty good. We fall back on species here and biological taxonomies. Again, that's a relatively recent invention, a relatively recent way of approaching it. But even so, we've come to a point now where soon we'll be facing new questions. Think about bionic enhancement. If I get, bionic eyes, does that make me non-human? How much of me can I replace with bionic pieces before we no longer consider myself human? What if I replace all of me? At some point, we're going to have to answer this question. Or take synthetic biology, the ability to create organisms from scratch, as it were. If we create a human from scratch, is it still human given that it bears no biological relationship to any other human? It has no parents, no children, no siblings. It's another good question. So there are these edge cases that are difficult to determine, but how we determine them will impact our theory of human nature. As time goes on, we may choose to draw those lines in different places. And when we do, that will change what we think our theory of human nature is. So while I do think we can have a descriptive theory of human nature, I think that theory may change over time culturally as we change our culturally based answer to which things are humans. So which is the starting point. Once we've got an answer to that question of which things are human, then we say what makes them human. But I don't think we need to go further into the explanation, why are they human, or the normative, I think we maybe want to avoid, of how should humans be. So what does a theory of human nature look like? Earlier on, I said it's something that applies to all and only humans. And I think that's wrong, actually. I don't think that we'll be able to get a theory that applies to all and only humans, or at least it's not obvious that we can. And the problem is that there's just a lot of variations in humans. It's difficult to think of a feature that all and only humans have. For example, we talk about being bipedal. Humans are bipedal. We walk on 2 feet. But not everyone does. Some people don't have legs. They may have been born without them or lost them later. They may have a disability that puts them in a wheelchair. That doesn't make them not humans, though. We all know that. There are even medical conditions where people have legs, but they prefer to walk on all fours. That's their normal mode of locomotion. It's rare, but it happens. That doesn't mean they're not human, though. So the chance of coming up with something that all humans have and no other beings do is, I think, pretty remote. And we should instead be looking at what Wittgenstein called a family resemblance concept. That is, there's a cluster of features that are indicative of humans, and we all have them to greater or lesser degrees. Now, importantly, having more of these features or having them to a greater degree doesn't make one more or less human. It's what it is to be included in the family of humans, as in the target of which things are humans. Just as my having more features of my family's face doesn't make me more a member of my family. It just means I got not only my dad's eyes, but his eyebrows and his nose, and maybe I have my mom's mouth. Maybe my sister doesn't have as many features, but that doesn't make her any less a member of the family. So given the history of horrors based on human nature, I think we should avoid normative theories. Given the kind of all the way down nature of explanations, I think those aren't as promising, and we should stick to descriptive theories. But I do think that we should recognize that the need to determine which things are humans introduces bias. The fact that we are ourselves part of what we are studying introduces further complications. And it's best to proceed with some humility and some caution. Thanks, and I'll see you in the forums.